ready to go, buddy?
I think we're live.
Welcome to the Bird Hole. We're here, sitting here today. Of course, Frank. I'm AJ, and we got a special guest over here. Tell me something good, buddy.
Who are you? Why don't you introduce
Who
yourself
are
first?
you in my house?
Nobody knows you yet.
Yeah, so my name's Keval, last name Patel,
Dr. Patel.
Dr. Patel, one of many. I'm currently a fellow in the Chicago area, and then I'm just visiting Frank from
Chicago.
On
your few weekdays.
Yeah.
You're not just a regular old fellow. You're a critical care doctor. Now, that's out of all the doctors, critical care, that seems pretty important, I think, out of all the doctors. That stratifies. It's like top 5, right?
Yeah, I have to say, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy my job to a point, to a fault, I guess, where I wake up and I'm like, I can't friggin' wait to go to work.
That's amazing.
Deal. And my coworkers are phenomenal. It's just a blast. I'm living a dream, I guess.
That's pretty cool to think. I mean, it's so varied and it's pretty tough, right? I mean, you have to make a lot of life-saving decisions all the time, right? It's high pace.
Yeah. It's very different than what I thought life was gonna transpire to be. I remember starting like residency. So Frank and I trained together.
Yeah.
And I think the first like couple months of residency, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be family medicine or primary care, and that is not how life
Never does.
has evolved.
Yeah, never does.
Something always
You
changes.
can't predict. Anybody who has a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, when we're in elementary school or grade school, it's kind of a stupid exercise to get everybody to write a 5-10-year plan because nobody knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had no clue I'd be where I am today.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think anybody does, really.
Yeah.
'Cause the only person, maybe Tiger Woods. He knew he was going to be a pro golfer and be the best in the world. But rarely, it just never happens like that.
Only one person can it work out that way.
Yeah, exactly. I thought I was going to be the best golfer in the world.
You still could be, but
It's going to take a long
like
time.
the seniors tour in like 15 years or something.
I would like to be on the senior tour. That'd be a sweet retirement.
That'd be a good retirement.
plan.
That'd be an awesome
Yeah,
retirement.
it would. Yeah, it's nobody ever knows, man. Like people, that's what planners kind of throw me off because they don't know.
Yeah.
Anybody who seems like they have a clue in 5 years, they're really boring and they're not setting their sights high enough, or they just are lying to themselves and everybody. You know.
It's funny you say that because Frank and I were talking about this earlier today, and it was like, where we started and where we ended up. I felt like I've been a nomad over the last couple of years, and, I've lived away from home for like 10, 11 years now. And somehow I've found my way back to Chicago for a third time, which is not where I thought I'd end up.
It's hard. I had to fight to get back to Nashville.
Yeah.
I signed a contract when I was in residency because I thought there'd be no other way barring if I was locked in here because I would be somewhere else. Because I was born here, but if you're in medicine, you have no clue.
Exactly.
Like you don't know. I was in Iowa, Illinois, North Carolina. And it was like 12 years.
Yeah.
And so. It's hard to come back. It really is because you have no clue. You generally can take the easy route. Like if most people where I went to residency said they're just going to take a job there, whether they liked it or not, or they go to fellowship, take a job. Just kind of the easy way to go out. And unless you really try, it's kind of hard to get back.
Yeah.
I don't know. But were you doing intensive care during COVID? Both of you guys were.
Yeah, we worked. I think.
I guess
Frank
the way our program worked, we were able to moonlight in our ICU.
Yeah.
So we were we already had to be there 2 months a year at least. Basically 100 hours a week. And then when we were on our other subspecialty rotations, we were in there all the time. Yeah. And I think it's it was interesting too because there wasn't a lot of data to say what was or wasn't going to work, in terms of how to treat these things. So everyone was kind of learning in real time. And I don't know. It was a good experience all in all. I think for what it did for us and, our ability to work as physicians and handle this ridiculous workload and things like that. But, Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome as if COVID never existed.
Yeah,
right? But
it was strange learning it to me, like learning it as it came, because every new day was new,
and every variant was a little different.
Yeah, it was strange.
The symptomatology of different things, and like the kind of timelines of things, and just kind of like the hit or miss nature of how those patients did and things like that. It's interesting. But obviously the U.S. Life expectancy dropped like a good 2 years or something, give or take. Yeah, all because of that. So over 1 million deaths.
There was an early case in Detroit, wasn't it?
There was. Yeah. It was interesting because
I think we had one of the first cases.
But it was weird because like everyone was sending their when the pandemic first started, we had to it was like a whole thing with the CDC. It was like you had to get this like case number for the patient, and then it took days to get the result back. Yeah. And then eventually the testing got quicker. And, things have changed a lot. But
it was, I don't know. I think you may have been on an ICU service when it hit, Frank. But I remember
it was March of
20. I think you and Face on one of our other friends from residency where I was on medicine that month with 2 third-year residents, and it was wild because the hospital, normally you would think that it's like, nice and open, doors are open, kind of you can walk through freely, and that was the complete opposite. Like that week of March, I think it was right after March 15th, and you walk through, every unit was kind of closed off. You had attendings there in the evening who would normally not be there, and it felt very unusual.
It was a real like dystopian kind of like almost like Walking Dead situation.
Exactly.
It had that vibe to it for sure.
So, but in retrospect, what coming from like the educational standpoint and like the medicine aspect, what incredible time to like take care of people, to learn. It's not often that you and an attending physician who's been practicing for like 20 years
are dealing with something brand new.
Same thing, and you're learning about it at the same time, kind of deal.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take on it, because I thought the same thing, because everything was changing daily. I was interviewing in San Francisco, and we were in Chinatown when the news hit, and then we flew back, me and my brother, and then I was in residency too, and everything was changing. Whether the CT findings you could identify, we were getting CSF on every patient that came through the ICU that was coming through. We went from 5 patients to 90 in like a couple of weeks, and it was just trying to figure out what would be the best case in either situation. I know we were doing feeding tubes on everybody in lumbar puncture because nobody knew people who had power didn't really want to touch, COVID patients. The residents didn't have much say, at least where I was. And so you went to work.
Servitude, and
you went to work. You didn't get a bonus.
That was it.
You worked more.
More.
You didn't get a bonus. And so the pandemic was really hard for residents. I think nobody ever says that. You don't hear that talked about because we get paid. And they even talked about, we got a email saying you're lucky that your salaries didn't decrease when everybody else was demanding higher wages. Everybody else was working less. The residents were, you were held against your education for graduating on time. There was no way that you could get away from it.
It's funny you bring up that point, because I think the pandemic really changed how residency culture is going about, where I think it's about time where residents start demanding a little bit more. It's evolved a little bit. Before, from what I understand, there was like no work hour limit previously, and then the state of New York enacted something where residents could only work like 80 hours a week. And then now, I think residents are demanding more, which is understandable, between like a work-life balance with how like the pandemic happened. I think with the stories I'm sure you've read where like, you're a radiologist, radiology residents were being pulled into the ICU in different parts of the country.
Yeah, we were doing like tubes and in lines and things. Yeah. It's
not what you signed up for, but it's like, just something that came out of necessity. But and right now I've worked at after residency, as a fellow, this is now my second place working with residents. And the culture has definitely shifted from what we were doing as residents. So I think the change is welcomed, but we'll see kind of how it transpires over the next couple of years.
It's going to be interesting to see the pull of the ACGME, because kind of the culture of medicine is do what you want and don't make much of a fuss. Whether there'd ever be true organization from the resident standpoint, it'd be interesting to see. There's a lot of arguments, every argument against better wages and better work conditions for residents, but whether that will ever change, it's been kind of a long time coming. Yeah. And so it'll be really interesting to see. You think that COVID would have been a great precipitator for that conversation, but never really was enacted. And I don't see it really, changing much, particularly as far as, work increases, overtime, and other things that other workers benefit from. Because the thought is that we're inept at our profession at that point, but other workers, whether you're software engineering or nursing, you always have a lag period of learning on the job. Right. And so that's an argument. There's every argument for more benefits for residents, and it hasn't been really discussed. And I don't know what the precipitous, because you eventually put in your servitude, then you go into be attending, and you don't really care about it anymore. And that's the strange kind of progression there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of younger attendings care, but
yeah,
I think there's like that kind of almost like that, I don't know, just that period after you're done where it's like, okay, finally, like you don't want to care just because you're trying to just relax a little bit and actually just work and like maybe finally pay off some, medical school debt or these things. And it's just, it's tough when, just like the hierarchy in medicine and things like that when it comes to like training and all of that, like it really beats you down. So when you're finally out, it's like you don't have energy left to go and advocate for residents or things like that as much as we probably should. But
I think one of the plus sides of the pandemic, and not that there are many in a pandemic, but as being part of a residency program, and this is something that Frank will probably agree to as well. We were talking about it earlier, where I think being training doctors in the pandemic, it really brought us all closer together. So I'm originally from New Jersey, Frank's from Michigan, but out of the 13 of us, not many were from Michigan. So that pandemic kind of canceled all of our plans. I remember I was supposed to
go anywhere. We were only seeing each other at work. And
I think that really, I don't want to say forced, because we were already pretty close before all of that. But that really brought us all closer together. And the plus side of it is I have 12 other phenomenal friends. Like here I am in Nashville on Tuesday night, just hanging out. So it just brought all of us together. So I guess there is some silver lining to the pandemic. And I guess it sort of worked out from the training standpoint.
Yeah. There's a lot of discussion to be had on that, whether, some good, some bad, a lot of bad, a lot of good. I don't know. Hard to say. That's a complicated situation,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So how are you liking Nashville so far?
I have to say, today's been a phenomenal day.
What'd you do today?
Listen to some live music.
Definitely listen to more than a little live music. I want to say I got serenaded at the stage.
Oh yeah, yeah. They played in Margaritaville.
Yeah,
that's cool, man. Yeah, I think weekdays during the evening time is probably the best time to see Broadway. It's a shit show, man, on Saturday. And Friday.
I bet.
It's too much. It's sensory overload, really.
Yeah,
that's a tough place to be. I think going on a weekday, maybe on the evening, it's fun.
No, it was a phenomenal experience. Good. And then the last place we went to was Tootsie's.
A lot of history there.
Yeah, exactly from what Frank was telling me. Yeah. And there was a guitarist just
shredding it up.
Yeah. It was phenomenal. Couldn't have asked for a better better experience. The last time I was in Nashville was. The last time I was in Nashville was about a year and a half ago, where I almost took a job with Frank. But before then was in like 2017 when I was here for just hanging out with some friends and some family. And a lot of things have changed. So we went to 51st Deli this morning.
Yeah.
Was it good?
How were the breakfast burritos?
Oh, those breakfast burritos were phenomenal. With like a nice cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Their hot sauce definitely hit the spot.
That's a good one.
And then when we pulled up, so when I came in like 2017, there was a bar on Centennial, I think.
Whatever that street is there. Yeah.
And I remember going there. It was an old rundown gas station that I guess they closed down the gas station part and they converted it into a bar. And at like the pumps, they'd set up picnic tables and like human Jenga, kind of thing, or large Jenga.
Sounds very sexual.
Yeah. Well, instead of calling it human Jenga, just
you mean large Jenga,
large
like with
Jenga.
2x4s instead of
Jenga.
Oh,
2x4s instead of
wood. Not humans. Pull them out.
There's wood, you say?
Huh?
There's blocks.
Yeah, there were blocks.
Interesting.
Yeah, so when we went to 51st Deli this morning, I was like, this place looks really familiar. And I had to go through like Google Photos. And I was like, Frank, this is a place.
Yeah,
like,
we're just talking about it. Yeah, like, I don't know what you're talking about. But then I realized,
But very, very cool. Nashville has definitely changed from the last time I was here.
Everybody's got a dog and a podcast.
Yeah.
Everyone's got a dog and a podcast.
So it's not really, you know.
They just give these things to anyone.
Yeah, we just went
online and we're like, oh, they're available on Amazon. I guess that's all it takes.
That's all it takes, man.
And then we needed preamp, so we made a little trip to Guitar Center and bought that bad boy. But
that helps. Yeah. It's a pretty good Guitar Center.
Speaking of guitars, we went to Carter's Guitars too.
You play guitar?
I do not.
I told him he has to learn.
I have to learn now.
But people telling me he looks like John Mayer, so
it's like a given at this point where if I'm gonna manifest that, I have to learn how to play a guitar.
Yeah, John Mayer's my favorite.
If I can't play Your Body Is a Wonderland, then
I can teach you it.
Exactly.
I can teach you it. You know, Rolling Stone just released the 250 greatest guitarists list.
Yeah.
It's a little skewed, you know what I mean? It's not greatest, like technical, because that would just be somebody you never heard of. It's kind of most influential. Good to see they put Mayer on it. He's one of my favorites, you know. Of course, you got the regular Gambit, but there's some kind of oddballs.
You got your
in
Stevie
there.
Ray Vaughan.
But Stevie Ray Vaughan's like 20-something, which is a complete farce. You know, Jimi Hendrix is one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
That's what I think. I think the chain. You know, we have Hendrix, and then Stevie Ray Vaughan's top 5. Whether you want to argue it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
He's in there, but it's kind of an interesting list. But yeah, Mayer's going to be one of those guys. I think he just kind of transcended generations. He was coming out in that singer-songwriter time with Norah Jones and Howie Day and all these other people, and managed to transition himself and be through the generations. You know, he's going to be one of those generational talents that we see growing up. Yeah. Good to grow up with him. But it's a cool place, man. You go with some good vintage guitars over there. I played a guitar I still regret not buying.
Yeah.
Me and Frank went in there. Yeah, it's like a relic Strat ripened.
Yeah.
Roasted.
There's some cool stuff in
there.
Man,
there's some cool ones in there.
There was, again, I don't play guitar, but there was one that we looked at where, is it the neck of the guitar? It had like dogs on it with one of them was wearing glasses.
Yeah, there's all those like crazy like art piece guitars with the crazy inlays and
kind of cool. If you get really rich, I'm gonna decorate my house in that.
Just cover the walls.
Yeah. That and
big house in Green Hills covered in guitars
and Banksy paintings. Exactly.
You can shred them yourself halfway too.
That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah. Get them off the DH gate.
You think we can find some Banksy paintings on StockX?
You can find anything.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah, box and papers.
Box and papers, man.
You know what I've been addicted to lately? It's doing this cold plunge. For the viewers outside, there's a pool outside, and about 10:30 and 11:30. So if you live here in North Gulch, you probably see us out there and make a scene. Those dumbasses out in the pool again, honey. It's 10 o'clock. I don't know why I always do a Hank Hill voice for that, but it seems to fit pretty well. But we went out there for 20 minutes last night. Jumped in the pool. I think the pool
cold. Probably
conservatively it's probably 28 degrees.
Conservatively.
Not
Celsius.
Not Celsius.
For our European viewers.
Fahrenheit. It's about 5 degrees Celsius.
It was cold.
It was cold, man.
And nobody wants to be the first one to get out either.
You can't. So
you can't.
We're all strong-willed, strong-willed men.
My excuse was I don't live here, so how do I get in? So I have to
you
wait
don't want to break the
else,
culture.
so.
It's culturally disrespectful to be the first one to leave.
Exactly.
And so we all followed that, and then we ended up almost dying.
It was fine though.
Yeah, it was great. Fine. It's great. You feel like a new man after.
Hop in the sauna afterwards.
Yeah. Think about all the chemical reactions that are going when that happens.
The dopaminergic release when you get out.
The dopamine bath is incredible.
Yeah.
I feel like a new man.
That was my first time cold plunging.
What do you think about it?
I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think starting from the sauna going into the pool was the ideal situation.
Yeah.
Like I used to run cross country back in high school, and we used to do ice buckets, but not like a full trash
submersion
submerging process, but only for the legs. And I remember after doing ice buckets, you felt like you had new legs. It was a weird sensation where somebody just unscrewed everything down from your knees, and then just gave you new parts.
Plus there were no more diagnoses of ALS after your cross country team did that. It's really nice of you guys.
So I thought it was phenomenal. I can't wait to do it again today.
Oh, it's addicting. Science hasn't quite figured it out, but I think essentially it's your body thinking you're about to die in terms of stress.
I think it's just like the body's just like reaction to some stressor. It's like going to the gym and lifting more weight or running faster and longer.
Did you ever get a runner's high? Describe that.
I think so. My experience with running has always been a little different, where I think my brain is just like go all the time, but running's just one of those activities where I start running, my brain's still going, but then I don't know, I just zone out, and then in my head it's just la 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 kind of thing, and I think about nothing for the next 30-40 minutes. So I always found running to be a little therapeutic, and it's also a great exercise.
It's a really good exercise, but I've been searching for that runner's high for years, never got it. That's why I stopped running.
Maybe my runner's high is that hitting that la moment.
Maybe, man. Maybe it's kind of like some kind of meditation going on there.
Yeah.
But
you still run quite a bit with berries.
I do. It feels good. I feel much better afterward. My muscles crave that vasodilation.
Yep.
And I need that. And also the vasoconstriction with the cold plunge. Just feeling everything come back is somewhat revitalizing.
Yeah, definitely.
Good for your skin, good for your mind, your body. Builds mental toughness.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
in the words of David Goggins, who's going to carry the boats and the logs?
It's going to be you guys, you know what I mean? If you go out there, the walk out to the cold plunge is the best part, because you know you're about to go in, but you can't help it. It's like being strapped in on a roller coaster. You want to get off, but you can't. So there's a handicap chair out there, and what I want you guys to do tonight is I'm going to blindfold myself, and I want a 30-minute window, and I want you guys to dip me a little bit, but don't tell me when you're going to submerge me. That way, I'm going to show you guys how tough I am. I can handle it. I can. Excuse me. I think I got TB from the.
I really hope not.
Cold plunge.
Oh gosh.
Oh man, that's funny.
No, that's a iatrogenic. That was an iatrogenic cough. You guys are safe, trust me.
There's nothing that scares administration and nursing supervisors more than possible TB.
Yeah, there's always a lot of possible TB.
It freaks everybody
We started.
out.
So we started in the reading room. We say non-specific centrilobular nodules.
Yeah.
And that could be TB.
Yeah. Or like an apical,
it could be a million things.
Yeah. It could be
aspiration
things.
From a cold plunge. It could be, it probably is that. It's probably some kind of aspiration. It never is TB, hardly.
And then every time you go to see a patient with a cavitary lesion, you look at it on the CT and you're like,
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen TB here? I've seen one.
I've seen
a couple
one
cases
case over, like, I think 4 years.
A Gome complex. I saw one the other day, actually.
Some granulomas, some caseating granulomas.
Yeah, those are fun. It's an interesting thing. Nothing like the term caseating. I think that's some kind of Latin for cheese.
Exactly. Should we explain that to our viewers that might not know what the word caseation means?
Yeah, let's tell them.
So, coming from the Latin root
casein
probably, like casein protein.
Yeah.
It's like a terminology basically to kind of describe your lung tissue turning to like cottage cheese consistency, basically.
Yeah. Is all the neutrophils and all the necrosis going on in there. Yeah, the fungus has to eat, and that's the problem.
I've never heard of it as the fungus has to eat.
The fungus has to eat.
That's the right description.
Yeah, it needs it's fastidious, very fastidious, so it needs some oxygen. So that's why it likes the lungs.
Yeah,
and that's a physiology question for people out there listening. You know, it's the fungus needs air and it needs something to eat. So that's why people get infected, and to make a nice cheese ball in the lung. Has anybody ever tried that? I wonder what it tastes like. It probably tastes awful.
I would imagine it could not taste very good.
No.
I can't imagine who would try it, because I feel like, so talking about this now, I feel like it would be like some tribe out of like New Zealand or Australia.
Yeah. Definitely like a brain eating tribe would eat lung.
That still practices like cannibalism.
Interesting.
And then, but would TB even get there? Because how it kind of reminds me of a little bit of Indiana Jones when he's flying over and he's getting shot with arrows. It's like, what sort of human contact would they have to be able to even get TB?
Interesting.
Maybe the aliens brought it.
Do they have many endemic diseases to like a localized tribe? I mean, what's the deal?
I would imagine
parasites.
I think it depends on how secluded they are.
Yeah.
If they have a pretty small population, a few hundred, and they're really isolated.
Inborn genetic errors. Though,
that's for sure. But the only the thing is, if there was something there and your population was that small and it was that rampant, you wouldn't have the population very long.
No, it's interesting.
But
so they're probably isolated to some degree.
Infectious disease would be a phenomenal thing to study, like if you're studying one of those tribes, because like you hear about a lot of those tribes in like the Amazon area or like New Zealand or something, or Australia. And like when you think of Australia,
the hobbits of New Zealand. Is that your favorite tribe?
I love the hobbits of New Zealand.
But yeah, like my impression of like Australia has always been, when you get down there, something's trying to kill you.
True.
And then I figure the same thing with Amazon, where you probably can't see the floor you're walking on.
No, I've got boxes everywhere.
So those. Oh,
it's hard. That's funny. Same day delivery.
Same day delivery got
all over the place, man.
Yeah.
I'm in denial.
So speaking of same day delivery, I don't know if Michigan had it, but in Chicago, it's kind of addicting. You're like, I can buy this today, and it shows up a couple hours.
Oh yeah,
later.
I was cold yesterday, so my first thought, and this was interesting to my ancestors living any time before today. So the ones who starved on a boat ride. And over here probably would think kindly of me now. Yeah. But I was cold. The room was 68 degrees, and I needed to be warmed.
Yeah.
So I opened up my phone, and I clicked on space heater.
Yeah.
And they said it would be delivered in 2 hours. So I said, thank you. It was waiting for me on a little box down there. But the problem is I had to park and go down because I live across the hallway from the box. So that was quite a walk. But anyway, I got my space heater and found electricity and turned it on and was no longer cold.
He discovered electricity.
So there was a lot of steps of human innovation that I just utilized there for my own gain, which was nice. So I like to thank our ancestors for that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, good call.
Mm-hmm. It was hard. Our ancestors had it tough, man.
But the problem is now we're at this point, and as you mentioned earlier, you got Amazon boxes freaking everywhere.
I think the trick is you got to buy like cardboard box futures.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Are these? Do you think they're gonna keep using boxes?
So I ordered like a handful of small things on Amazon. They came in 3 large boxes, and then each individual item came in its own box. So yesterday I broke down probably 20 boxes for like 10 items.
We're bullish on corrugated cardboard.
Corrugated cardboard, yeah. We're very bullish on it.
Who makes that?
We'll have to look into that.
I feel like Amazon. So if Amazon hasn't already gotten into that industry, they should. And Jeff Bezos can thank me later. But like,
I'm sure you're not the first person to think of taking control of that portion of the supply chain.
But like the idea goes back to like I think maybe even before we started residency, Amazon got into. They started buying planes, and they started their own like transport process with like Amazon Prime.
That's the most impressive thing I think with Amazon is just
they've just gone from ground up in terms of supply chain.
The logistics monsters that they've become in the past like 20 years. And it's been like an exponential curve too.
Right.
It started off slow, just delivering stuff.
Yeah.
And then it grew into them putting, 100,000 square foot warehouses all over the Midwest and everywhere else. And now, you can order like 10 different large items and have them delivered quicker than you ever could. Like it would be more effort for you to go to Best Buy to buy a computer monitor, get in your car, drive there,
drive back,
hope they have it, hope somebody can find it, give it to you, ring it up, take it to your car, bring it back, and then carry it in the house yourself.
Yeah.
Or you could, if you live in a major city, next day delivery, it shows up, you go pick it up, and you take it in your elevator, your staircase, and you're there.
It's funny because, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a new car company out there, electric car company called Rivian. And I think one of the bigger investors in Rivian initially was Amazon, and I think Ford as well.
Amazon has, I think, like at least a 25 or 30% share. Yeah. Don't quote me on it, but they own a probably good around a quarter of the company. And they're like the biggest customer for like fleet sales right now with the Rivian vans.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out and stuff.
Bezos and Musk have a thing. They're not going to utilize each other's brands. They're in the space race together against each other antagonistically, and they kind of oppose each other. So I think you'd be better off using Tesla just because of the supercharger network. It's just easier. The Rivian charger.
The thing is, though, Tesla doesn't have like a commercial vehicle for delivering like
the thing.
Boxes and things like that.
Yeah, they could put that together.
They've got like SUVs for people in LA to drive.
Well, not yet. Those giant semis are supposed to be coming out at some point, right?
Yeah.
From Tesla.
Have they? I don't know what their numbers have looked like though in terms of what they've produced as far as like prototypes.
I don't know if they've delivered.
And the other thing is creating a prototype is one thing, but manufacturing has its own challenges to say the least. So
they're going to have to. I think Tesla's similar to initially when Amazon came out, it was a online bookstore, and if you would have thought that the market had a fallacy on valuating as online bookstore, which is completely wrong. It was a ubiquitous distribution center, and the way to change global logistics, and they did it and executed. It's similar to see if Tesla, you think of it as a car company. It's going to be interesting to see if they change it to like a manufacturing distribution as far as electric network company, because it seems like the supercharger network is leagues above everything else. Yeah. And I think for a huge problem like that, you need to fix the kind of the not necessarily the product, but the distribution of it and how it works and interfaces within the world more so than the product. Because anybody can make an electric car. Yeah. But if you can fix the charging,
can you make 100,000 of them and make it so a bunch of people can use it?
Exactly. Charge it. That's the problem. That's where the challenge lies.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's really funny that we're talking about this because this conversation reminds me of back in May, one of our really good friends from residency was getting engaged, and afterwards we were all hanging out, and one of our other friends who's a surgeon was talking about how her sister works for Amazon, and I think she's a software developer for them. But I could be wrong about this. This was a while ago. And like, you know, the three of us are all in medicine, and what we do is pretty important. But now talking about like the day-to-day things, as you mentioned, you know, you had a need today and Amazon was able to address that need. And working on that side of things, it's like Amazon is such a force in the world right now, not even just in this country, but like all across. And to be able to meet that need and say like, hey, you work for Amazon and you can make this happen is mind-blowing. Like,
yeah, but there's a difference. You're like, you can do all the things that you need to do within saving a human, and you're kind of all encompassing. Working for Amazon is where you're kind of like an anthill. It's like an ant system. So you have workers, and you're focused on one task and getting really good at that one task. If you only focused on, you know, controlling sodium, you'd be really good at controlling sodium. Yeah. But you wouldn't be able to be the person you are. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But, you know, Bezos had the view, and he's kind of the queen bee if you look at it that way. But everything else is just kind of, you know, it's kind of unidirectional as far as your process. And you get really good at one thing, and you come together as kind of a colony, which is a different way to look at it. But yeah, as an entity, it's much more profound. Yeah. But what you do is more encompassing within your profession, so it's a little different.
Yeah, I agree. It's very different. Yeah. But that, I think what you say in terms of like, it's almost like an ant colony where everybody's like part of a bigger force. It blows my mind about how big Amazon is.
It's ubiquitous. Yeah. It's a distribution company. It's a data center.
Yeah.
It's a defense.
Yeah.
Like the government's using 20% of AWS right now.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Right.
But you know, if global war breaks out, you're sure to utilize their network system. Yeah. Like if we would have had, you know, if it would have been the Civil War and somebody would have had Amazon's distribution center, if the Union would have had Amazon, there would be no chance for anybody else. The railroads were enough.
Yeah.
And the railroads pale in comparison to the amount that I can get a Chinese-made space heater produced, sent over on a shipping freight and into my place in 2 hours.
Right.
That is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Do you think drone utilization will be happen within the next couple of years?
They're working on it, but I guess the question too is like, how useful will it be in terms of like what kind of volume can you produce with it? Like, will the FAA have something to say if there's like 1,000 drones per square mile delivering like random little odds and ends?
Baby, get my 12 gauge. I'm gonna shoot that bird down.
And then just hearing the
damn it, Bobby, did you order more confetti from the Amazon? Damn it, Bobby. Yeah, exactly.
It'll be interesting though.
It will.
So speaking of drones, I think a lot of consumer technology arises from like military technology.
For sure.
And a couple of years ago, even before like what's going on in Ukraine has been going on, Amazon had announced like a drone delivery system, but I don't think they actually used it. But now, like in Ukraine, they're using drones for various things, and who's gonna pick up on that and commercialize it? Amazon would be like the primary target.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's gonna be interesting to see. You guys about ready to go hit the cold plunge and the golf swing?
Probably hit the
that
cold
was.
plunge
We're gonna go head out. Well, thank you guys so much for listening
tuning into this episode of the Bird Hole.
Like and subscribe. Thanks to our special guest, Cavill is amazing.
Hit that bell icon, and we'll see you on the next.
We're gonna
episode.
go jump in the pool. If you see us, look out your window.
Put out some chicken tenders for us.
Put out some chicken tenders for those boys. That's all they eat.
Zozo, stop.